Well, hello there, awesome entrepreneurs, and welcome to another episode of Business Straight Up, the podcast to help creative entrepreneurs build the business skills they need for success. Today's guest is the Stacey Harris. I absolutely love the emphasis on the before her name. She is an amazing social media coach and teacher, and we are going to get into the help that so many of my students are looking for when it comes to social media. Which networks do I choose? Can I schedule things in advance? And what do I write when I don't know what to share today? Stacey shares some amazing tools as well, ones that I haven't even heard of and I had to look up, and they're absolutely awesome. So if you really love today's episode or past episodes, can you do me a huge favor? Go to iTunes, click subscribe, and leave a review. I know that it takes some time, but my guests and I truly appreciate it and love to hear your feedback. The show notes with all of the resources mentioned in today's episode and all of the episodes can be found at www.businessstraightuppodcast.com. That is all one word. I know it's long, but it's all one word. You can do it. So let's dive right into social media. Hey there, awesome people. I am Brooke Summer, and you are listening to Business Straight Up, the podcast for creative entrepreneurs to learn, connect, grow, and build the business and life that they dream of. Welcome, let's get going and dive right in. Welcome, beautiful entrepreneurs. I know that I say this every time that I'm excited to have you here, but I am. If you've ever met me in person, you know I am the person jumping up and down and squealing. And I have an amazing guest here today. I have been a fan of her podcast for a long time. She has amazing information in short little bite-sized chunks. So when you're picking up kids from school or wherever, you just have a little bit of time. I learn so much from her every time. So I'd love to welcome the amazing Stacey Harris to the show. Welcome, Stacey.
Hi, thank you. I'm also the person who's so super excited and or amped all the time at the beginning of the show. I used to have guests on my podcast and I felt like I said it every time, but that's because I only have really cool people on the show. So Obviously you'd be excited. So there you go. It's a podcaster thing.
Exactly. It's, I'm like jumping up and down and excited and squealing. So I'm thrilled to have you here. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we are going to go over kind of a whole bunch of different things. Stacey is a social media expert, and I would love to know, Stacey, if you can share with our listeners a little more about you and what's your story, why you chose to work specifically with social media when it comes to running your own business.
Okay, so I am the Stacey Harris. I'm a social media strategist and trainer. I started my business 7 years ago. I always have to do the math in my head. 7 years ago, I actually started as a virtual assistant. It really stemmed, if I'm being completely honest, which is always my goal, it stemmed from I had been a stay-at-home mom for a couple of years and I missed the part of my brain that functioned when I worked. I had adult conversations because I had friends and my husband and my mom lives with us. And I've always sort of talked to my child like he was an adult, which is why he's got such a great vocabulary now. But so I had that, but I missed the part, like the challenge of working. And so I didn't really want to go back and do anything I had done, which was lots and lots and lots of different things. And so I was like, what can I do? And so I started a business, and it was originally to like just make a little extra money. And that sort of snowballed into what it is now, which is a strategy and training agency. And we work with clients all over the world, and we work from everybody from one woman shop kind of online businesses to major corporate clients who have multi-locations or startups who are launching software as a service products and those kind of things. And we retired my husband 3 years ago, and he works with me now. And so it really grew into this major thing, which is fantastic. But it really stemmed from a desire to work again. And specifically in social media, I found that I got really excited when things changed. And that is not apparently common. Most people think it's really frustrating. And I was like, this is what I should do because apparently I'm a weirdo. And it's just kind of worked out for me.
That sounds amazing. I love that you retired your husband to work for you. I think that so many times as entrepreneurs, especially creatives, we don't really understand the full scope of what can be possible with our businesses.
Well, and I think when you start your business, or at least this was true for me, I should not speak for all people. For me, It was my parents were both in law enforcement. Like my grandparents worked their way across the United States with their parents as farmhands. Like I did not come from entrepreneurial people. I came from
Wow.
like you get a good job, you work your 40 years and then you are happy if you lived long enough to retire and you made enough money to do so. And so entrepreneurism was like not a thing in my on my radar. And so when it's constantly kind of surprising. My grandmother never fully understood. She's like, "Wait, you make money on the internet? I've heard about this on Dateline." I'm like, "It's not that. We're
Right?
okay." Um, but it's interesting. So for me, when I started my business, what I have now was not something on my radar because it's not anything I had seen. I was not exposed
Yes.
to it, so I didn't think of it as a possibility. And as I've grown, I've sort of moved the goalpost further and further because as I got closer or as I achieved things, I was like, oh, so if I can do this, maybe I can do that. If I can make a little extra money every month, maybe I can replace Charles's income. If I can replace Charles's income, maybe I can double it, maybe I can triple it, maybe I can quadruple it. Great. If I can do that, maybe I can do XYZ. So that sort of as I've moved closer and closer, I've been able to see what more is possible just from exposure to the possibilities and meeting amazing people who are doing amazing things. But I think it's really easy to either get super overwhelmed because you are aware of what's possible and it seems so far away, or just never see it, so never think that you could do it.
Yes, that is so valid. And I think that we set these goals and then we'll reach the goal, like you had talked about the goalpost, and then
Mhm.
we kind of wonder what's next. And so looking at what's next and looking at what's truly possible in our businesses is so, it can be overwhelming, but it's also very freeing to think about the opportunities that we have available.
Yeah, for me, it's always about what's next. I'm always looking at like, where else can we take this? What else can we do? Where can we expand? How can we expand who we're serving? Because for me, I love social media and I love that this stuff changes all the time, but I also know that that's not true for literally probably like 95% of online entrepreneurs, especially, but even those with local businesses. And so if I can get in front of a group of 1,000 people and say, hey guys, you're not dumb. This is all you need to know. You don't need to know all the other stuff, and have some light bulbs go off and then allow them to go and serve their communities in a much larger way because they've sort of removed this barrier for themselves. And then for me, I've got to keep growing and I've got to keep doing and I've got to try and get in front of 2,000 people and 5,000 people and 10,000 people.
Yes. And I think that as well, we tend to get sideswiped by so many of the other tasks that we have to do in our business that we sometimes forget about the overall goal of impacting lives. So for you, when you impact, let's say, a small business who can then impact other lives, it's a ripple effect and it keeps going
Totally.
and going and going. And so many people think that wanting to grow your business is ultimately about the money. And while the money is important because it's a tool, it's not the overall end goal. It's impacting lives and changing the world for the better.
Absolutely. And for me, I will be honest, I am a huge fan of money. I
Well,
I think that money is the thing that has the biggest impact on the world. The people who are in positions to make global changes paid to be there. You
Yes.
pay for access to these things. And so, I think about not just the impact I can have directly with my business, but when I'm generating X amount of dollars, I'm able to do really amazing things. Like we're really active with a lot of charities and we really like to be able to fund things locally as well as internationally when we can. But I know that what's going to make the biggest impact on, my kids' school having an after school program is it being funded. So if I
Yes.
can be a part of funding that, then I'm going to show up and I'm going to write the check. And so to be able to make that impact on both ends, sort of through my financial gain because of, just the exchange of value for dollar, as well as the impact through the actual value, then that's just win-win for me.
Yes. More money means more opportunities to impact other people.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've kind of struggled with in the last 6 months or so because someone actually shamed me for wanting to make more and said, that's awfully greedy of you. And I really struggled with that for a while, but I realized it truly is more of an impact when you have that tool available to you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm a huge money fan. I have had lots and lots and lots of people try to shame me around my desire to have money. I love money. I think it's fantastic. I think it's wonderful. I think it's really, really great. I joke a lot. Like I'm terrible at math until you put a dollar sign in front of it. Then suddenly I'm really good at math.
You
And
just
so, and
figured out, right?
I've literally been that way since I was a child. I had a terrible time with math as a kid, like adding and subtracting even. And my dad put dollar signs in front of it, or like gave me like he would literally gave me like cash and coins. And I was like, I get this, and I just I'm great if you turn it into money, because it's
Perfect.
something I care about, like abstract stuff. I'm like, I don't know what that means. I don't care how many apples there are. It's of no consequence to me. But if I can make $5 into $10, that I want to know.
Yes.
And so I think, and that's why I say what I say. And that's why I speak up about it, because I feel like there's often a lot of voices around, especially in marketing, where we hear some people who are using financial goals as either a tool for shame or a tool to manipulate someone. And I think that can give the idea that you are in business to make a certain amount of money something that's a negative. And in the end, it's your story. Like, you do you. If that means you want to make a ton of money, then make a ton of money and have a major impact in the world. If it's you want to make a ton of money and buy a really big house, I have one of those too, and it's fantastic. I love it. And my cleaning lady is great. And guess what? That happens because I enjoy making money and I enjoy spending money. So I
Yes.
have those things, and that's cool. And if that's not your story, then it doesn't have to be your story. There's not a right way. But I do whatever I can whenever possible to sort of be like, it's not a shame thing. Like, you can be into money. That doesn't make you a bad person. I like having a really big impact in the world. I also like really nice shoes. That's cool.
Right. Absolutely. And I have a question. I feel like I'm going off on a tangent here, but I feel like this is something that so many women face. Do you think that men face that money shame as often as women do?
I didn't until I married my husband. And then
Really?
I realized, yeah. And it's funny because I have some clients and friends who own a company called Right Wellness Center, and they are a married couple, and they just last week were talking about money and relationships. They're doing like a masterclass right now, and it's so funny because I was watching it and I was paying attention to the stuff, and I was like, yeah, we had to have these conversations because you
Yes.
come into a marriage with two very different financial perspectives. He is the youngest of four. I am an only child. My grandparents and parents, as hard as they worked for themselves, like both generations did very well for themselves in the space they were in.
Mhm.
My dad had this mythical ability when I was a child to pull money out of nowhere. I don't know how he did it, but it was
To
always
teach you
there.
math.
Well, and he knew that he could work overtime or
Yes.
pick up an off duty job, and like he when he needed money, he knew sort of what the ATM was, what to sort of, what lever to pull, and money came out.
Yep.
And so, I was very lucky to be surrounded by a lifestyle like that. And it's not something my husband had. And so we each had sort of our money things. He is a saver. I am a spender. So we had to have these conversations around like, okay, so what does that look like together? And everybody, man or woman, has their own money stuff. His parents definitely instilled in him amount of like, if you want to make a lot of money, then you must be greedy. And also people with money are bad. So he had to do a lot of work around that. And he had to do it the same way women do it. And it's mindset is mindset. And I think sometimes gender bias can play a part in it. I think he had to do some work when he came to work for me because we're not business partners. He works for my company. My company is 100% female owned, and that's me. And so we had to do some stuff around like, even before he started, like, I make more money than you now. Is that going to be weird? And he had to kind of adjust his perspective around what made him, I'm using total air quotes here, a man, because
Yes.
he wasn't the one making the money. And then he was working for me. And so a lot of that was a lot of really uncomfortable, honest conversations.
Yes.
Which I think is the cornerstone of any good marriage. Not
Yes.
that I'm a marriage counselor. I've just had the one, so I don't know what other marriages are like. But for us, it was a lot of like, okay, so what does this mean inside of our partnership? And he had to kind of work through what it meant to be the husband and to be the father, and that really that had very little to do with money because he was the exact same person and he showed up the exact same way, and all the things we valued in him had zero to do with his ability to bring home a paycheck.
Yes.
But I think men and women both have it. I think everybody's is both unique and exactly the same. It's just we all have the voice. It's just a matter of what the voice is saying.
I love that. Absolutely. So kind of pivot. We'll go into actually
Sorry,
what I
I
planned on
totally
talking.
take you off track.
No, no, no. I actually love money conversations because I feel like so many of us struggle with money blocks. And so I love that conversation. But I do want to talk about marketing too. So let's kind of pivot over to marketing. And I feel like when we say the word marketing, it's such a huge umbrella when it comes to looking at how to really build relationships to grow a business. And there's so much to do. So why is social media such an important part of an overall marketing strategy in 2018 right now?
So I think you said an important thing that I don't want to get too far away from is that social media is a part of an overall strategy. In fact, I have a podcast episode titled "This Facebook is not a marketing plan." Like it's not your
Yes.
whole thing. However, it is a really important part of your plan because it gives you ability to scale your audience in a way that's really hard to do in traditional marketing. It also allows you to target and reach your exact right audience, which is really hard to do in traditional marketing. Also, just to bring that money topic back around, it's a lot less expensive than traditional marketing is. And the ROI can be significantly higher when you have a strategy in place and when you know exactly who you're talking to. Because again, we're not putting a billboard on the side of the highway and hoping, one out of every 1,000 people who pass it on the freeway call the number. But instead, we're putting our billboard on Facebook right in front of the exact 1,000 people we want to call our number.
Yes,
And
which is an
so that,
awesome opportunity.
yeah. And so for me, that's why social is such an important part is it allows us to it also allows us to have a conversation with our community and with our audience in a way that we can't with a billboard. I mean, it's a pretty one-sided conversation, I always think of I don't know if these are all Chick-fil-A's are all over the United States, right? Yeah. You guys all
They're
have
here.
Chick-fil-A bill. Okay,
Yeah.
so you guys have Chick-fil-A billboards, and in Southern California, anyways, they're always like a cow mounted to a billboard. And I do not eat at Chick-fil-A. I'm not a Chick-fil-A fan. I've actually never eaten at Chick-fil-A, so I can't even say I'm not a fan. But their billboards crack me up. However, they're not doing
Yes.
anything for me because, again, I don't eat Chick-fil-A. I don't eat chicken, so it's not super helpful for me. But Chick-fil-A can go in and put in front of their exact right audience, hey, this is your special, and know exactly who they're targeting, and then have a conversation back with them because people go, oh my God, I love Chick-fil-A. That's fantastic. We go there twice a day. I know people who are obsessed, and they're like, apparently there's some sort of magic sauce there that's fantastic. I don't know. I should have picked one I knew. But
So good.
anyways, but they can actually have a conversation. The other example I use a lot, which I have not been using as much lately due to the current Starbucks controversy, is Starbucks. When the red cups come out at Christmas, it's not just they're saying like on the radio commercial, hey, the red cups are in. No, people are posting their red cups on Instagram using hashtag red cup because everybody knows when the holiday come out, everybody knows when pumpkin spice latte comes out, and they connect with their audience around they've created an event out of this. And that's because of social. That doesn't happen with a radio commercial. That doesn't happen with in-person networking. That doesn't happen with a billboard. That is something that is genuinely unique to social because it's a two-way conversation.
Absolutely. I love that you have kind of reframed social media as a conversation instead of just a platform. I think that that's really important. And so many people forget that. And it kind of leads me into another question that I have for you is scheduling. So scheduling social media posts for me and then interacting live with the responses has been a total game changer for me in both of my businesses because I just don't have time to be on social media all day. How do you feel about scheduling social media instead of posting live?
So I was hoping you had heard that advice on the podcast. It's the exact advice I give to people all the time. I talk about scheduling in two ways. I schedule what I call the social media foundation. So it's the stuff that has to go out, your blog posts, your podcast episodes, your sales messages, whatever they are, your content from other people, all of those things. I schedule all of that stuff. My team schedules all of that stuff. And then I actually have time on my calendar. Like literally, if you opened up my calendar right now on Google Calendar, it would say 15 minutes engage in blank Facebook group, 15 minutes engage with Instagram stories, 15 minutes engage with, and depending on the day, there are any number of them, but they're broken up and they're throughout my day. So now I'm not sort of sitting down and spending 4 hours on social media and going, okay, so I should do this, 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 and this, and hoping one of those things actually ends in a result. Instead, I have really targeted time to execute a really specific task so that when 15 minutes is up, I'm out. I'm not scrolling. I'm not looking. And if I finish a task early, I'm not scrolling. I'm not looking. I'm done. I'm moving on to the next task. Generally, this means I get to get up and walk around my office for some stretch of time. But for me, it's having a specific task and a specific time. So I really think about scheduling in both ways. I'm pre-scheduling that baseline, that foundation of content, but I also have time on my calendar so that I am not scrolling Instagram hoping I run into something worth engaging with. I'm not hoping I get to that Facebook group that I know I can get clients out of. I'm not hoping I get in and respond to the comments on my Facebook video that I did last week. I have time for it on my calendar to go in and happen so that I'm making time for these conversations and for these people because they're important to me.
I love that. I feel like so many people think that it's one or the other instead of kind of marrying the two together and scheduling the things that are important, but then also interacting. Because really that's what social media is a chance to interact with your audience, with your ideal clients, and really build a relationship with them so that you can take something further and help them further, or maybe sell a course to them, help them do whatever they need to do.
Absolutely. And I have a lot of people who are like, well, if I spend all my time doing that, then why would they ever buy from me? And here's how I think about it. There are absolutely people who follow me on social media. There are people who have listened to all 403. I think 403 went live today. 403 episodes of my podcast and have never bought anything. And you know what? If that's all they needed, great. I'm glad I could be of service. That's my job, is to move them from problem to solution. There are also people who listen to one podcast episode and cannot wait to join my membership. And that's great too. But it all happens because I am in front of them and I'm connected with them and I am a resource for them. And that comes from not just talking, but listening.
Yes. And that also increases, so the whole know, like, trust thing, because when someone sees that you're really responding on social media, especially with free content, they're going to say, well, if she's responding free, then of course, if I buy this course, she's really going to help me.
Yeah, Amy Porterfield talks about this with her. She's got a program called Webinars That Convert that I took and I love, and it's one of the few things I'm actually an affiliate for. Like I'm an affiliate for exactly 2 programs, and that's one of them. And she talked about in her free webinar, my goal is for them to love my free content so much that they say to themselves, if this was this awesome, I can't wait to see what's behind the paywall. Like, I can't wait to see what's in the actual course. And so I always try, I bring that up a lot with clients, and I'm like, no, let's create content that's so good. They're like, if this is that, I can't wait to see what I get when I buy stuff. And really it's the same thing with social. Like, if she's showing up and serving me when I'm not yet paying her any money, I can't wait to see what happens when I pay her. And especially, like, for me, I run a membership site. So when I want to get people from the podcast to hit the mic backstage, it's got to be, if this podcast content is so good, I can't wait to see what the training is like. When I'm engaging, I can't believe she responded to my comment on her live video show on Facebook. I can't imagine how engaged she is in the forum for that private membership. It's a no-brainer that I join. And bridging that gap comes from showing up.
Absolutely. I work with so many service providers that aren't necessarily selling courses or things of that nature, but more of a specific service. So for instance, creatives, cake designers, photographers, things of that nature. And they're always asking me, how can I provide free content? And we kind of go through a content strategy of what your clients need from you, because no matter what type of service you have, whether it's courses or not, they need something from you. What problem or fear or issue can you help solve for them?
Absolutely. And what I love about them is when you're in that position where you can only do so much work when you're a service provider. Like, there's only so many hours of it. There's only so many cakes I can do in a week. There's only so many websites I can design in a week. It's just, there's a limit of time, right? And so use your social media and use your content to qualify leads. So that when I get on, like, let's just use cake designer, because my mom did cakes for a while, and so I have an affinity for them. Mostly because she's great at it, and it's the skill that my hand like goes into a flat wobble. I don't know, I can't do it. So let's talk about cakes. There's only so many cakes I can design, I can decorate and execute in a week and deliver for weddings, parties, whatever. So when on my social, I want to qualify the leads that I'm getting into my shop or I'm getting through my website, so that I know that I'm getting the best clients. And so I want to use that front end to educate. What are the 3 decisions that I'm going to have to make when I get on a call with you or when I get into your shop and I do a tasting. Let's teach them about those decisions before they ever get on the call, so that when I get in and you're here to make your order and we're going through your order and I ask what flavors, when I ask what kind of, icing you want, because we're going to be inside or we're going to be outside, or we have so and so with a peanut allergy, or all the things you need to factor in, because I've educated you with that stuff up front through my free content and my social media.
Absolutely. I think that that's amazing. And I try to help people figure that out, because everyone has something that they need to share with their potential clients that can help qualify them and also add value to their potential clients' lives, so that even if they don't need their services right now, in a year when they do need your services, you're the first person that comes to mind.
Yeah. And I think anytime we can empower people to make an informed decision, they're going to feel more confident in making that decision with us, because they know that they have the information they need to make a decision. And often when we're looking at these creative spaces, we're asking people to purchase something they don't fully understand the execution of.
Yes.
I think that's about this a lot with photographers. Like, I know I'm going to get photos, but I have a camera on my phone. What's the difference between us doing that, like throwing that up on a tripod, and hiring you? Well, here's the difference. A ton of knowledge. Like, I know all the things, and you know how to hit the button on your iPhone. That's different. And so when we can inform them of those differences, and we can inform them that of the not just the value in buying, but in the things they need to know to make the decisions. Like, where are we taking the photos? How many people are going to be in the photos? What should I wear in the photos? All of those things, they're more likely to not only say, yeah, you're who I want to buy from, but hey, Joe, this guy's great. Hey, Susie, this person is amazing. Whatever that is, that's who they're going to refer, because that's where you've not just built know, like, trust factor, but you've essentially established yourself as an expert. You don't have to have courses and be speaking and all of those things to be an expert in your industry. You just have to be informing your audience.
Absolutely. I love that so much. I could not agree more. So let's talk about social networks then. And sometimes it can be really overwhelming to figure out what network to focus on and how to determine what will be beneficial for someone's business. So do you have a recommendation on how to choose? Do we have to be on all of them?
You should definitely, decidedly, absolutely, in no way be on all of them. Like, it's just no, don't do it. I do this for a living. I am not active on all of them. Because it comes down to, who are you talking to? Your audience isn't on all of them. You just need to be on the ones that your audience is actually using, your clients are actually using. So if I am a cake decorator and I am selling cakes, Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, they're going to be great. I'm probably not going to spend a ton of time on LinkedIn. Probably not going to spend a ton of time on Twitter. That doesn't mean those networks aren't super valuable for somebody else, but they're not going to garner me a whole lot of clients. On the flip side of that, I have a lot of clients who are in the B2B space. And so LinkedIn makes absolute sense for them, because their HR reps who hire them to come in and teach wellness programs to their employees are absolutely on Facebook, but they're not thinking about wellness reps to bring in and talk to their employee base when they're on Facebook. They're doing that on LinkedIn. So knowing who you're trying to reach is going to be the absolute critical component. And then as far as choosing, I like to use the power. I call it the rule of two. So I have two primary networks. And the reason I choose two is because when you only have one network, you're building and living on rented land. So when Facebook makes a massive change, which I'm sure they occasionally do, the people who really get hurt by that are the people who have built their house there and never diversified. Because, let's sort of bring this to real life here. If I work out of the Starbucks on the corner of Main and First every day, and that's where you can find me, but then the Starbucks on the corner of Main and First closes, you have no idea where I went, because you've never seen my office. You don't know what other Starbucks I work out of. And so I have to be bringing you back to my website, but I also need to have another location that I work out of, so that if location A doesn't work, you can go look at location B or go back to my office where I am. And so that's why I like to have two primary networks that support driving traffic back to my website and my email list. Because as much as I love social media, it is not where I am building the entirety of my business. It is a portion of the marketing that drives traffic to my website. Or if you have a physical location, to my physical location. That's all it is. It's built to do from a business perspective, is to drive traffic to someplace else. Now I'm having conversations and I'm engaging people on these platforms, but I'm not living and dying by them.
Absolutely. And one thing that so many people don't think about is it's not just if the social networks make a change. What if your account gets hacked?
Yep.
What if something else were to happen and you lose all of that information? So many photographers specifically that I work with grow Facebook groups, and Facebook groups are an amazing way to reach out to people, but it can't be the only way.
Yep. And, we get this a lot. It's also, there's a lot of rules to marketing. And a lot of times, especially creatives, they want to market using their Facebook profile, and they build this great business using their Facebook profile. And then Facebook figures out they're using their profile instead of a page to market their business, which is against the terms of service on Facebook. Mm-hmm. They actually say you cannot use it, I'm quoting here, primarily for commercial gain, which they choose the definition of all of those words, not you. And they close your account. And now you've built your entire business on Facebook, and specifically your Facebook profile and that great, amazing Facebook group you manage, and it's gone and it's not coming back. I don't care how much you beg me. I have no contact at Facebook that is going to reopen your account. And I know some people at Facebook, like, it's just not possible. And so it's got to be following the rules, but also it can't be the only way you're building your business. It's the same with word of mouth. It's just as dangerous to be relying on only word of mouth, because what if that dries up? We've got to be looking at how can we use these different tools, inside of social media and in the rest of our marketing to work together.
Yes. And so many people get overwhelmed by that, but it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Pick a couple. Pick your favorites.
Live in the gray area. That's what I say. And really, I would pick their favorites, because I'll be honest, I don't love Facebook, but I spend a lot of time on it. I didn't have a Facebook account before I started my business because I had closed it because I did not like it. I don't care about Farmville, which is what was happening when I started my business all over Facebook.
It's crazy.
And if it weren't for my business, I wouldn't have a Facebook account now. I would have an Instagram account and I would have a Twitter account, because those are the only two things I like. However, that's not what my ideal clients love. In fact, I don't spend a ton of time on Twitter. I'll be honest with you guys right now. Most of my Twitter scheduled. You know why? Because my audience doesn't seem to super love it. They do, however, love Facebook and Instagram. So that's where I spend my time.
Yes. And how do you see that? How do you know?
How do I know where they spend their time?
Yep. Sorry. I need to be more specific. How do you know what your audience likes and what they don't like, where they spend their time?
So a lot of it comes from having a really clear picture of who your ideal client is. I want you to know as much about them as humanly possible. And ideally, if you've been doing this for a little while, you probably have a couple of clients who were like dream clients. You're like, oh my gosh, if I could just flip and clone them, my life is complete. Ask them, where do you spend time online? What are your favorite magazines? And a lot of this stuff you'll know because it's come up in the course of conversation. But I'll be honest, and I hope none of these clients are listening to this, I go stalk them online. I'm like, okay, so I know this is your Instagram handle. I'm going to go look at who else you're following. I'm going to go look at what else you're paying attention to. I'm going to pay attention to what you like and share and comment on, because I want more people like you. So I want to be talking to you. So it really all comes from really, really, really digging in and knowing who your ideal client is. My ideal client is an actual person. Like, I know her and I know everything about her. And it's not because she really exists in real life. It's because she really exists in my head. I built her because she is a hodgepodge of a bunch of really cool people that I know in real life. And so knowing that makes all my other decisions really easy, because it's, what would she want? That's what she wants. Great. That's what I do. And then from there, it's testing. So you use that to make an informed, hypothesis and educated guess. And then you tweak and you keep seeing what's working and you make small changes over time. Social media is not a quick fix. Social media is not I hit the button and oh my gosh, $1 million popped out. Anyone who tells you it is lying to you. And I want you to just run away super fast. It's a long game. It's about establishing and building relationships and curating them over time, and tweaking and playing and finding what works. And in years and years of doing that, now I have the ability to run a Facebook ad and play it like an ATM, because I know if I put in $5, $2 will come out of it. I know if I put in $5, $10 will come out of it. And so we've evolved it over time. Like, great. So this initial investment paid out this. What can I tweak to make it pay out double that and triple that and so on and so forth. But that takes time.
Yes. That's something that we aren't very good at sometimes is waiting.
I think it's part of our entrepreneurial spirit because I have not yet
Yes.
met a business owner who was a super patient person.
Oh
Um,
my gosh, we
it,
want it now.
yeah, it's part of our charm. But it's something we have to work through. I absolutely am the most impatient human being on the planet. I'm also very self-aware, so I know I know it's a thing. I work through it constantly, but I have to turn off the voice in my head that is like, okay, now you've done it. Where's the result? I'm like, okay, I know now that the business I have right now comes from the marketing I did 3 to 6 months ago. So I can
Yes,
actually
that's hard.
I can actually look at my business and go like, all right, it's I'm not hitting my numbers. Oh, it's because I didn't do anything in January.
Right? That's
Okay.
so hard to think of though. Oh my gosh.
It is, but it's our job to be accountable to ourselves. That's the tough part of being your own boss. And if you really struggle with that, I suggest finding accountability partners who will call you on your crap. That's what I have, and coaches who will also do the same thing, which is the other thing I have, because I am self-aware enough to know that I will not necessarily be honest with myself, and so I have intentionally put people in my life who will call me on my crap.
Yes. I absolutely love that. I want to kind of go back to ideal clients because I intentionally made that my first episode for the podcast because it's so important. I knew I would refer to it over and over again. And I love the advice that you gave about asking them. So many people are afraid to ask. And I feel like when you've built that relationship with this ideal client, you're usually in a space where you can ask them these questions.
And here's the thing: is they don't always have to know why you're asking. They don't always have to know that you're totally asking. Like, ask them about their weekend.
Yes.
Ask them about what movie they saw. Like, just be like, I'd love to just sit down and have a little chat with you, catch up. Great. And then there's some clients who, like, I absolutely had clients when I first did this. We're like, I want to clone you. So can you and I talk for 20 minutes and I just like pick your brain? Absolutely.
Yes.
Let's do.
And most of those clients, when they're those dream clients, are more than willing to sit down with you and talk.
Totally.
I love that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how social media strategy intertwines with a web strategy and how they feed each other. Do you think that it's best to do one or the other or to have both complementing each other for more of an overall umbrella strategy?
So I actually build strategies for clients that include social content and email because one running independently, it's really hard to make them work. Certainly work 100% of the time because they're not providing support to each other. And so instead, I always think about sort of themes like, my goal for this month, and I'm just going to use me as an example here. My goal for this month is to get, let's say, 15 new members in Backstage, my membership community, right? And we know that we're going to be talking about Instagram in the training we do this month. And so I'm going to make sure that everywhere I'm talking about Instagram, right? So my social content is speaking to Instagram tips. My podcast content that comes out is Instagram advice. Any videos I do are about Instagram. My emails are Instagram focused. I do a webinar about Instagram. I'm talking pretty consistently about this. Now, it's not to say it's the absolute only thing I say, because I'm also highlighting past content and I'm promoting stuff, and there's going to be other things going on. But when I can work sort of promo back and really look at sort of like what's my focus and work back from there for all of my different parts of marketing, then I really have built a plan that can support each other. So if somebody shows up on my Facebook page, they hear the same thing as if they go listen to the podcast, or it gets reinforced in an email that they signed up for or whatever. Again, these things are supporting each other. And these are then the conversations I go have in-person networking. I will absolutely drive a conversation to what I want to talk about. I'll find the people in the room who I know are going to have questions about XYZ, and I'll answer those questions. I will book a workshop or a speaking engagement or something, or I can go in and talk about Instagram. I will absolutely bring this out to my offline networking as well, but it all is funneling back to one goal. And I know that is going to serve this purpose of growing my membership. And this is the focus. And all of these things now, all of these touch points are consistent. And that's the basis of building a brand. It's just a consistent touch point experience. The content, what you're talking about, is the same thing. It's just as important that you have that in place.
Absolutely. I want to kind of scoot back to something you said of highlighting past content. I've worked with so many students who are afraid to repost their content because they don't want to seem repetitive. And we talk about this a lot. So I want to know your perspective on why you highlight past content and how you do so, maybe how often or in what way.
It totally depends on the content as far as frequency, but let's start with why. Here's the deal. Ideally, your audience is growing every day. So there's absolutely somebody who joined yesterday who did not see the blog post you posted a year ago. They don't realize you're repeating. Here's the other thing, and this is the tough love part, guys. No one is paying as close attention to your stuff as you are. So even if I have followed you from day one, even if I've read every single blog post you've ever shared, I've read every single word, it will not occur to me that this is the same thing I've already read. And I may be in a different mindset now. And now is the day it might actually push through and be like, light bulb, and I get it. So it's
true.
an absolute massive disservice to your audience for you to hide an epic library of content from them in favor of only looking forward.
That's amazing. It's so true. I think that so many people are afraid to reshare, and it's amazing content that you're keeping from the people who might need it the most.
Absolutely. And some of it, admittedly, might have some seasons. There may be things that you've got to make sure you hit in the window. Maybe you're doing a more holiday driven thing, or, I've done recaps of events I've attended that are an annual event. Well, I don't share that recap, every third Tuesday. I share it once a year when that event happens. Or I also try to share those things around when I know the event hosts are like choosing speakers. I'll be like, just so you know, this was my recap, just as a little sly back end trick for you guys. But a lot of it and I will fully admit some of it doesn't have a great shelf life. One of the things we're doing right now is cleaning up my evergreen queues of content. That's like 3 things you need to know January 2017. They're probably not the 3 things you need to know January 2018. They might be, but then I'm going to change the title of the post, to be honest with you. That's what's going to happen to those. We're going to change the title. But here's the thing, in many cases, they still exist on my website, but they're not going out in my content queues anymore. And so, it might not be every single piece of content, but I'm guessing it's the bulk of your content. Another one for me, I talk a lot about Facebook ads. The first episode of my podcast 5 years ago, 402 episodes ago, was about Facebook ads. Guess how relevant that episode is now? Not super.
Probably not.
Not super. There's some core stuff in there that's valuable, but guess what? I've said it in 16 other episodes, probably more than that. And so I don't share that episode on social anymore. So again, some things may have a shelf life. Some things may need a time specific frequency, but everything can be shared repeatedly. And to hide it from your audience is, Fabienne Fredrickson, when I first started my business, I listened to a lot of her stuff, and she used to say, I don't know if she still says this because I haven't followed her in a while, but she used to talk about hiding your brownies. How mad would your friend be if you had brownies and you hid them from them? I always think about that when you're talking about hiding old content, like don't hide your brownies. And every time I think of Fabienne, because I love that example, like your audience is going to be so mad if you're holding out on this incredible amount of content that they just don't know is there. And so it's your job to make sure they know. And so do your job, share the stuff. As far as frequency, it totally depends on how much content you have. I'll be honest, I have a ton of content that gets shared. So stuff goes out maybe 2-3 times a year. If you have less content, it's fine. The only thing I would suggest avoiding is repeating the exact same thing. Like on Mondays, I share this blog post. On Tuesday, I share podcast B. On Thursdays, and like every week, it's the same exact thing. Other than that, people aren't really going to notice.
I love that. Do you have a tool that you use? Because I use CoSchedule.
I use eClencher.
To reshare.
I use eClencher, and I like it because it's all automated. So I literally have something that is my queue, it's called, is podcast episodes for Twitter. And it's all of my podcast episodes that I feel like resharing. And it eClincher shares them on a pre-established schedule. And when they get to the bottom of the list, it shakes it up and it does it again. And so it literally is it's completely hands off for me, which I really, really love.
Automation is a beautiful thing.
Yep. The only thing we have
oh my gosh,
to go and add the new stuff in there, which sometimes we forget to do. And I'm like, hey, did that podcast from 6 months ago in there? Because I haven't seen it in the queue. So sometimes we have to do that. But yeah, and I try to go in there quarterly and do a little bit of an audit. We do a little bit of a review based on sort of the stats and the numbers we're seeing. I'll change some hashtags for Twitter, or I'll tweak something. We do it for LinkedIn. We spit them out for LinkedIn too. Those secondary networks for sure. I don't do a ton of I don't actually do any third-party scheduling for Facebook. In fact, we don't share a ton of stuff on Facebook at all anymore. We actually do the live show, and that's about it, because of the algorithm changes and because of where it fits into my overall strategy. But what I will do is I will, on the live show, mention a past episode of the podcast when it's relevant. So I'm still using it to drive traffic to past content. And in fact, I'm repurposing a lot of that content into the live show that we do now, because that's the way I can get the best traction from it on Facebook for my audience and for my goals. Use case may not apply for everyone, but for a lot of people, that may be the way to go. So finding ways to share it, finding ways to repurpose it can be really valuable.
Absolutely. I love that. I feel like repurposing old content is such a huge wealth of information that we just kind of forget about.
Also, if you're somebody who feels like trying to keep up with your content is going to kill you, which is something that I have absolutely experienced in the course of my 10 years as a business owner, learn to love the repurpose, my friends, because it'll absolutely work. In fact, it's one of the things I got asked this question not too long ago at a speaking engagement. They're like, do you ever just like feature like previously on? And it's like a rerun of a past show as your weekly podcast. I was like, no, but I totally should, because there are absolutely episodes where I could be like, I could just rerun the old episode with a new intro. Like, find a way to make it work. It doesn't have to be reinventing the wheel. It could be expanding on a past blog post with an extra tip and linking back to the original blog post or the original video. It's a wealth of knowledge for your audience, but also can be a wealth of sort of assets to lean on when you need a little extra help.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm not thinking straight because I'm writing down. I take notes because I love our conversations. It is a good thing. I'll link back to my blog
post on the show again.
No, I love it. It's funny. One of my guests said, take a picture and send me the notes, because it was kind of funny. I use colored pens and stuff. I think the link back to an old blog post is an amazing idea, especially if it's an older blog post that maybe something has changed in your business, and maybe you offer an additional service now, or maybe you've changed up your offering, something like that, to link back to get that link back for SEO purposes. And then also just to keep people on your website and reading your content so that they, again, that like trust factor.
Yep. Anytime you can, once we get them there, like do whatever you can to keep them there. Like that's what we want to do. We want to get them back to our house. Yes. Which only sounds creepy. It's not creepy in real life. Every time I say that, I'm like, any stranger walked up to me and like, want to go to my house? I'd be like, oh my gosh, go away. But it's the example I use so often. I need to find a better example.
Your web house. That sounds weird too, actually. Spiders.
Well, and it's funny because I had this woman put in context for me one time about social media. She was talking about people being obsessed with the number of followers they had. And she was like, if you had 100 people in your house right now, you would be like, this is amazing. And so whenever I think about it now, I always think of that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine if I tried to have this many people in my house right now.
Right? That would be overwhelming for sure. Sure. So when I asked ahead of time, what advice would you give to a new businesswoman? You said, keep showing up. And sometimes we feel like we just want to give up. So what do you mean by keep showing up, and how does it relate to gaining traction in our business with progress instead of perfection?
So I think for me, it comes back to the same kind of thought behind, our growth and even repurposing old content. Like, our audience is always there. Our audience is always growing, and it's our job to show up for them. It's our job to provide them the value they need to move from problem to solution. That's our whole job. I don't care what industry you're in. I don't care if you do service, you're selling products, if you have a toy shop or an Etsy store. Like, your whole job is to move them from problem to solution. Even if the problem is like, I don't have a candle. I bought a candle. Now I have a candle. Like, I don't care what it is. It's your whole job. And it cannot happen if you don't show up, even when it's uncomfortable to show up. And it may, as you grow and as you evolve, get less comfortable. There are absolutely days where I don't want to do my Facebook Live show that happens every Thursday at 2, because I'm like, I got to do my hair. I have to put makeup on. I'm just super low energy today. I don't want to do it. But you know what? I dance partied out. I do my makeup. I put my hair on. Well, I do my hair and I put my makeup on. The hair was already attached. And I show up full energy, because that's my obligation to them. That is my commitment to them. And that is my promise to them. And it is my job. And so showing up when it's uncomfortable is when the difference is made. Showing up when you don't want to is when the difference is made. Because oftentimes the most resistance you will feel to showing up comes when you're growing at an exponential rate. I know the faster my business has grown over time, the less I have wanted to do the work, because I'm like, no. Because essentially it's self-sabotage. It's you trying to put yourself back in the box in which you have inhabited and been comfortable in. And so growing pains are a real thing. And so if you can show up through them, if you can work, play through the pain or work through it, or however you want to describe it, you have to do that, because that's where growth is. That's where change is. That's where the impact you want to have on the world is. And that's where your clients are. And that's where your money is it's in showing up. If I told you all you had to do to have $1 billion was get to a suitcase in Austin, Texas, you would go to Austin, Texas. No, but if you had to walk there, you would get there.
Yes.
Your business is the exact same thing. Your business success is located in showing up. So show up. I feel like that got a little fancy and like mean, but I meant it.
No, I love it. And I love that sometimes we have to kind of reframe that, because I know for me, sometimes the reason I don't show up is because I don't have it perfect yet.
No.
And really, we just have to show up and forget about perfection. And because, man, if you wait for it to be perfect, it never will be.
I've been in business 7 years now. I keep waiting for that whole perfection thing to work out. and the reason I said ugh to it is because it's such a common thing. Like, we as entrepreneurs, and I try not to assign gender bias to things whenever possible, but I think women are worse at it than men are. We going back to my hair, I have to do my hair and I have to do my makeup and I have to look good and da-da-da-da. I have seen my husband show himself in public in ways that I'm like, what are you even, that doesn't even match. What is happening right now? Like, you
or there's holes in it.
Perfection, dude. Back it up. I told this weekend, I'm like, I swear to God, the only reason you got married is so you could wear matching clothes. Like, I don't know what's happening here. And it doesn't necessarily occur to men in the same way. I think they run into a lot of it. I know a lot of male entrepreneurs who run into it with putting together services and email funnels and things like that. But we have to let go. And one of the things I love about Instagram stories is I don't always show up on Instagram stories with makeup. I don't always show up on Facebook Live with makeup. Now, the Thursday show that happens and is structured and is repurposed and high quality, that one I put makeup on for. But I do randomly go live on a Monday. Like, guys, I just had to talk to you about this. I don't have any makeup on and my hair is pulled back in a clip. And you know what? It works because it's about the value and not what I look like. I just opened up a new offering. We're doing VIP days. It doesn't even actually have a sales page yet, but guess what? I've sold a few. It doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be consistent. It has to be showing up and being of value. And guess what, guys? Also consistently making the ask, saying, hey, I have this opportunity for you to buy something. Would you like to buy it?
That's huge. It's hard too.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And I think sometimes when you show up imperfectly, it also makes you more relatable to your tribe as well.
Absolutely. It's easy to put the people who we look up to on a pedestal. And it's really beneficial for those of us who people occasionally look up to. As egotistical as that statement just sounded coming out of my mouth. For us to be like, no, for realsy, I'm a human. I am not, and I tell clients
Right?
this, I am not smarter than you. I am not better than you. I just have information you don't have yet. I can't fix dumb. I can fix uninformed. Like I can change that. Like we got this.
Yes.
I don't have some sort of mythical magic bean formula that makes it work for me and not you. Like I just have to tell you the steps and then you have to do the steps. And then there you go. We're the same. Like we're all just people. So I think that imperfection can be a real connection point for people.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And it's taken me a long time to embrace that. Because when I do my Facebook lives with no makeup on, my clients just go wild and they love it. But it's really hard for me to accept that.
Totally.
So I know that you and I both love a sauna. It is one of my most favorite tools in my business. And I even started using it for my family as well. My teenage son has summer chores that he has to do every day. So it works out perfectly. So what are your top 3 uses for a sauna in your business? How do you use it?
My top tips for a sauna, is that what you said?
Either tips or uses. Like, how do you use it? A lot of people ask me, why would I need a sauna?
So I use it for everything. That's why uses is hard. It and Google Calendar pretty much run my life.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like if I could just leave the robots in charge of it, I'll be fine, right? And Slack, my team going, hey, you have to do the thing. And I go, all right. For me, it literally runs our business. It keeps all of our client work on track. But we also do it for production of the show. So I know exactly where in the production a show is, and who kind of has it, who has the ball, for lack of I don't know why I'm using so many sports metaphors. I'm not really a big basketball person or sports person, but kind of who kind of has what's going on. So it allows, I hate managing people. Like it's just not my favorite thing to do. In fact, it's something we're actively looking at me doing less of because I don't like doing it. And I certainly don't want to micromanage somebody. I don't want to have to be like, did you do the thing? So if I can just go in a sauna and see whether something is done or not, that's great. But even
yes,
I had a sauna before I had a team, like when it was just me, because also, and I literally just got off a call with a client talking about this. I waste so much time running through my mind all the things I could do that I will not do anything. And so if I can just get in a sauna and see whatever's at the top of the list, and that's what I do, then I go and I see what's due today and I go do the thing. So it saves me a lot of decision making, because decision fatigue is a real thing and it's awful. And so if I can move past needing to make a decision and just go, okay, so this is what's at the top of my list of things to do today. This is what we're doing. And I just go through that. It's a lifesaver. Also, if I don't have that, I inevitably forget something in the middle of a project, which is bad for clients. They prefer you don't do that. And so I've got all my timeline and my deadlines and all of the pieces that are due from a client perspective there, but also inside of my own business. Like I said, for production of the podcast, for repurposing of our live show, of sending, if I told somebody I did a podcast interview, I'd send them a link to something that goes into a sauna. So then even if I send them the link an hour and a half later, it has to be in a sauna so that I actually send them the link. So I use it essentially to run my life. I have personal parts of a sauna, like all of my bill paying stuff that has to happen in a sauna. Like if I need to call someone, that I get to sign to my husband who's in a sauna because he also works for me. But like we have like life stuff and business. Like it literally runs my life.
I agree completely. I have things like renew my passport in there.
Yep.
All of
totally.
these little things.
Change air filter is one of the recurring ones in ours.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's hilarious. My mother always says, and I do have a very good memory, but she always says, you have such a good memory. How do you remember all this? I said, well, I do, but at the same time, I use a lot of tools to help me.
Yeah, I have a great memory too. It's called my phone.
Yes. Phone, calendar, all of the above.
Yeah. A sauna is on my phone. So it just pops up a little notification, order prescription. Great.
Yes. Yes, definitely. Well, Stacey, I'm so glad that you were able to join me today. I feel like we've talked about so many things that are so important: money and social media and marketing, all of these things that go into running a business. Where can people find more about you, learn more about you, your membership site, more social media expertise? Where can they find you?
So everything is at thestaceyharris.com. So it's TheStaceyHarris.com. And the membership site is over at hitthemicbackstage.com. But you'll find links to all of that at thestaceyharris.com, as well as all of the episodes of the show, both the podcast and the live show we do on Facebook, and links to all of my social media channels should you want to check those out. So that really is the home base for all things Stacey, is thestaceyharris.com.
Fantastic. And her link, as well as any of the things that we've talked about today, will be in the show notes, which are always accessible at www.businessstraightupodcast.com. It's all one word. And I might put my notes on too. I'm always nervous about that, to put what I found.
I want to see them now. See, that would actually be really great social content. Like, that's your Instagram post to link people back to the episode. Absolutely.
That's true. Except there's like weird stick figures with weird pink hair and stuff.
I say to it. I want to see it now. So you have to share it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, Stacey. I really appreciate it. And everyone, please go check her out at thestaceyharris.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on iTunes and leave a review. We are going to have a prize for the review of the week starting very soon, since the podcast is new, but I promise it's amazing. And I actually have one on my desk right now, so I'm not going to tell you what it is. It's top secret, but leave a review if you loved it and reach out. You're always welcome to contact me at businessstraightup.com. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you so much for listening to Business Straight Up. I'm so glad that you could join us today. Check out the show notes for this and all of the episodes at businessstraightuppodcast.com. And I can't wait to talk with you again. Have a great day.